this week's action-packed, arm-slicing, shield-shattering, manly chapter of Bleach, the rampaging beast Kenpachi Zaraki goes blade to blade with the giant Quincy, Gerard Valkyrie. Sometimes simple is best, and this week's chapter of Bleach was pretty frickin' metal. Kenpachi Zaraki has finally returned to kick all sorts of glorious ass, and he's going up against the massive regenerating Quincy, Gerard Valkyrie. This week's chapter was just satisfying as hell. Basically, just Kenpachi going on an assault at Gerard Valkyrie, hitting him with his sword, activating his Shikai, the Nozarashi, and knocking this guy across this massive city. He literally causes this guy to skid across buildings, smash into them, and it doesn't even look like he is trying quite yet. The thing about Gerard Valkyrie, however, is that he's the miracle. No matter what you do when you attack this guy, he can always regenerate. And when he does regenerate, he actually gets more powerful than before. If you guys remember in last week's chapter, Kenpachi actually ended up cutting off his arm. In this week's chapter, he grows it back, and it's even more powerful than ever. It actually kind of looks like a brand new gauntlet arm covered in these black veins, and it also has these cool brass knuckle-like protrusions, which just make him look all the more badass. But this is when Kenpachi decides it doesn't matter how many times he regenerates. If he just jumps in and continuously slices him into a number of pieces, there's no way that he can survive. However, this is going to be a big problem, because according to Toshiro Hitsugaya, if this guy just keeps on regenerating, he's gonna get larger and larger until he's at this like meteor-like size, to where if he even falls down on this city, everything is going to be completely obliterated. But all of this advice completely falls on deaf ears. Kenpachi decides that he is going to continue to battle. He activates the Nozarashi, which is really awesome. Toshiro Hitsugaya actually seeing it for the first time is really impressive. And with his abilities, basically, he just continuously knocks Gerard Valkyrie back. In fact, I would say that my favorite panel from this week's chapter was the scene where Gerard Valkyrie actually pulls out his sword, the Hafnung, and actually uses it to attack Kenpachi. And they literally fight like they're having like a normal sword fight, with Kenpachi on the ground, blocking the big attack, and literally parrying it right back at Gerard Valkyrie. It's absolutely fantastic, and yet again just paints Kenpachi Zaraki in such a badass light. However, Gerard Valkyrie is not going to be finished off that easily. He has a few more tricks up his sleeve, and he's getting ready to put Kenpachi right up against the wall. Will Kenpachi survive? We'll just have to find out in the next chapter. So what's the rundown on this week's chapter of Bleach? Just satisfying as hell. Lots of really cool panels this week. I especially love the initial appearance of Kenpachi just standing there all silent, all badass, and ready to go into battle. And just the scenes with him knocking Gerard Valkyrie this week were just so amazing. Like, the fact that he can actually make something that large, basically act like a normal opponent for him, again, speaks volumes for Kenpachi's just endless power, which is so awesome to watch. And it's also been a while since we've seen his Shikai, the Nozarashi, which I continue to think is one of the coolest looking Shikais from the series. It's basically a glorified giant sword-like axe, but it looks all sorts of badass. I loved when he was attacking Gerard Valkyrie's shield. I love the look of Gerard Valkyrie's brand new arm. I think it looks really cool. It's amazing that he can regenerate any body part too. Like, if you decapitate him, is his head going to come back in an even more armored form? If you completely slice him, is his body parts going to come back together and sort of reconstitute themselves and turn him into a much more powerful state? I actually kind of want to see more of the evolution of this character, knowing that he actually has these abilities. I also love the way his limbs actually look when they regenerate too, because his arm was just cut off, there was blood exploding out of the limb, and then suddenly this light just appears from his arm, which takes the form and silhouette of a regular arm, and then transforms into his brand new super-powered one. I thought that looked really awesome. There was also a little bit of humor in this chapter too, which I think was really appreciated. Again, more stuff between Byakuya and between Toshiro Hitsugaya, where Hitsugaya is just still amazed with everything that's going on, just seeing this massive giant. And Byakuya just sees it as, again, Toshiro having more of a Napoleonic complex, which I think is really funny. The interactions between these two characters has always been fantastic, and when you have Byakuya, Toshiro, Hitsugaya, and Kenpachi together, it definitely leads to a lot of great and interesting dialogue. Like when Toshiro actually tries to stop Kenpachi at first by letting him know, look, if you chop this guy up, he's going to turn into this massive being, which is just going to destroy everything in Soul Society. That, combined with all of the explosive action in this week's chapter, was fantastic. If not for the sword fights, but how about that scene when Gerard Valkyrie tried to crush all of them with his foot, and Kenpachi just ends up stopping it and pushing him right down on top of his ass. He pancaked Gerard Valkyrie in this week's episode, and I can't wait to see where more of this battle is going to head in the coming chapters. On the technical side of things, artwork looked really good this week. Lots of expressive action, lots of great panels, lots of just awesome badass poses from Kenpachi Zaraki. A lot of memorable imagery from this chapter, which is definitely going to make this a really fun read for a lot of action fans and for Bleach fans. So I loved this chapter. I've made it very clear in the past that Kenpachi is one of my favorite characters, and reading his chapters are always a real joy because they get right to the action, which is definitely one of the biggest highlights of the Bleach series. So I'm going to give this week's chapter right here a 5 out of 5. I really dug it. I thought it was awesome. A little disappointing. We're still not getting back to the whole Urahara, Grimjow, Jagger Jackson, Askin, Naklavar big explosion. But honestly, if it's a whole chapter dedicated to Kenpachi kicking ass, I am all for that. So 5 out of 5 from me. Check it out, Bleach fans. You will definitely see something you like. But if any of you guys did read this week's chapter of Bleach, make sure to tell me what you thought about it in the comment section below. What are you thinking of the battle between Kenpachi and Gerard Valkyrie? Do you think Gerard is actually going to start to evolve and become more powerful to a point where Byakuya and Toshiro Hitsugaya have to join him in battle? Would Kenpachi even allow that to happen? Is there a possibility that we might actually get to see Kenpachi Zaraki activate his Bankai at this point in the series? Is he really going to have to pull out all of the stops against Gerard Valkyrie? What do you want to see from the rest of this battle and the rest of the final arc of Bleach? Please tell me in the comment section below. Did I ever tell you guys that you are awesome? Thank you for watching this review. I really appreciate it. Make sure to share with all of your friends, and if you would like to subscribe to the channel, please do so. That way you can see all of our latest anime and manga reviews. You guys should also check us out on social media. All of those links will be in the description box below. Thank you guys again for watching, and as always, stay dandy, baby.